Jared here, another video, the messenger with another message. And by the way, for those of you who are telling me, Jared, we missed your videos with the cigar and scotch. That's for you. I'm going to finish smoking that after the video. Okay? We will, though, however, speak about maybe the first miracle that I've been part of, that I've witnessed, that was personal, will be probably the most recent one that has happened. And that was the story with my second eldest son, Natan Uzi. Natan Uzi in Hebrew means gift of strength. And boy, was he strong, and boy, did we get a gift from God Almighty, Master of the universe, the creator of all. Now he's 16. This is going back now. It's going to be almost 5 years. He was in grade 6. He was getting ready to graduate grade 6. It happened in April. I believe it was end of April. And I'm going to try to make this short and sweet, but try to get in as many details as possible. So it starts off one day, we see he's not feeling well, he's extremely exhausted, he doesn't want to leave his room, he wants to rest. Well, we figure maybe he's just catching a cold or something's going on there, maybe some type of flu virus. And this continues, and he couldn't even really get out of bed, and this went on, so I started saying, well, maybe something's wrong, we're going to keep an eye on him. Next day, didn't want to eat. He did get out of bed, pretty much went right back into bed, and didn't really know what was going on. And at one point, when he kind of looked at me, and I could tell that he didn't know who the heck I was, said, I looked, checked up above, they said, yeah, you called. And we called 911. They came to get him. He was starting to get very, I won't say violent, but we had to hold him down. We had to strap him into the bed, and we went by ambulance. We ended up going to 2 different hospitals. The first one, they said that's better. We go to the children's after they had a look at him. They tried to treat him there, and he was progressively getting worse. He had no idea who he was, who we were, what was going on, where he was. He was out of it. So now we get to the children's. They're doing all kinds of tests. I'm explaining what happened, the symptoms. So it turns out that what they were able to determine was that he had what's called encephalitis. Now, encephalitis, for those who don't know, is the viral version of meningitis. Whereas meningitis is a bacterial infection, encephalitis is a viral infection. And what this virus does is it specifically attacks the brain. Generally, what it does is it attacks the brain to the point where the brain expands until it pretty much pops. People have survived encephalitis. You've got maybe a 50-50 shot. I don't know the exact figures. But even those who do survive, there's always some type of brain damage. Sometimes it's extremely severe to the point where the person is, God forbid, a vegetable. Sometimes it's severe enough where they have trouble functioning, but they can still function to an extent. Other points, it's not as bad, but they do have some brain damage or memory loss, some type of disabilities. There's always something. You don't get encephalitis and generally escape with nothing. So we're there, they would determine it's encephalitis. They're trying all kinds of treatments. Now, encephalitis, they have very few things that they can treat it with. They do have an antibiotic. I think there's a couple. They tried everything. Nothing was working because there's so many different strains of encephalitis. They do know a little bit more about meningitis. It's easier for them to treat that. And of course, meningitis can be deadly as well. So we're there for several days. The hospital was short on staff, no surprise here in Canada and specifically here in Quebec. My son was out of it. We had to hold him down when he was in the bed, when he was awake, which was maybe not even 10% of the day. Obviously, he was being fed by intravenous. Of course, I'm praying the whole time. My wife's home with the other 4 kids. So it was very, very difficult on her that she couldn't be there with Nathan. Obviously, it was difficult for me because I was there with Nathan, and it was bad. I mean, I had to help them change him, and he wasn't able to do anything on his own, and it just progressively got worse. The angels and Yeshua Jesus kept telling me, it will be okay, it will be okay, and I have faith. And I said, I put my trust in God, put my trust in God's hands. God is the creator and the master, and he knows what's best, and if he's telling you to tell me that everything will be okay, as hard as it is for me to grasp right now because my son is in this position, I'm believing that he will be okay. That's what faith is, even when all seems lost. And it got to a point, we ended up being there a week, okay? Thank God someone was able to bring my wife for a quick exchange at the hospital when my parents watched my other kids, so she could see my son and I can go home and see the other kids. And then I came back, and then she went back home. After a while, there was all kinds of experts that came, and infectious disease expert, and actually there was one visiting from Israel. She was speaking to me a little bit in Hebrew, and they all said the same thing. Listen, we've done everything, and he's showing zero signs of improvement. In fact, he's getting worse. And at one point, he was pretty much in a comatose state. And they said, listen, sir, it's probably best that you prepare. You should, probably prepare to make arrangements that your son's not going to come out of this. He's not going to make it. It's just getting worse, and there's absolutely zero signs of improvement. And I said, okay. Now, I'm praying the whole time I'm there. I didn't leave the hospital room except for the one time to go home and see my kids. I barely slept. Probably slept in a week less than 10 hours. It was just from the strength of God that I was able to function. And when they told me that, that's when I went online and I said, look, at the time I had over 40, I think it was close to 45,000 people who followed me from over 70 different countries or 80 different countries from all over the world. And I went online and I asked people to please pray for my son. I gave his name and I said, please pray for him, because when we pray for other people, it's very, very powerful. God loves that. And I ended up counting afterwards. I don't know the exact amount, but it was somewhere around 4,000 prayers that I got from different people in something like 30 different languages. It was, I don't know the exact number, but it was insane. It was so heartwarming, and it was such a blessing, and I'm still so grateful for it. And that's when I turned to the boss and I said, boss, I need you. I need my son. And I do my best for you. I work for you. I save lives in your holy, glorious, and blessed name. If it's meant to be that we can't do anything, it's meant to be. I understand I can't do anything about it, but you can, even if it is meant to be. And I prayed, and I cried, and I cried, and I prayed. And next day, and by the way, I had even told the doctors and the infectious disease specialist that was there from Israel, said, listen, just pray. And they all said, look, we don't believe in God, but you do what you got to do. And I did. And the next day, I was sitting on they had like a little mini sofa type of thing in the hospital room, and I was sitting on it, and I heard Abba, Abba, and Abba in Hebrew means father. I heard Abba, Abba, and my hand had been, I was crying, my head was in my hands, and I look up, and my son was sitting up in his bed, the hospital bed, and he looked at me, and he looked around, he said, Abba, what am I doing here? Where are we? What's going on here? Why am I in a hospital? So I started crying, and I said, son, you were sick, and we thought we were going to lose you, and there's a miracle that happened. I spent about 10-15 minutes with him. He was okay. He said, okay, I'm going to rest Abba. And of course, I went to get everybody, the doctors, the nurses, infectious disease specialist. And I told my son, I said, son, just give me 2 minutes. So I was about to break down. I didn't want to do it in front of him to that extent. Now, they had us where we were in the super hospital, in the children's hospital, which is part of the super hospital for those watching who are not in Montreal or the surrounding area. It's near downtown Montreal. Now, we were in a corner. They kind of isolated us because it is still a virus. So we had to go through 2 doors to get to his room. But I didn't know where we were in the hospital. I frankly didn't leave it, his room, the entire time. People were bringing me coffee, food, etc., water. And there was, of course, a bathroom with a shower in there. So I went out of the room, just around. And I went to look out the window. We were right by a window. Once we left his room, I left out and we were by a window. So I looked out the window and what did I see? It was sundown. It was not quite yet, but it was coming. The sun was coming down. So as you could see, it was starting to get a little darker. And I could see St. Joseph's Oratory, but just where I was, it was just the top of it. And then you had the cross. And around the cross, there was an unnatural white light that was surrounding the cross. Now, without going into detail, I have an affinity for Father Andre, who did miracles at St. Joseph's Oratory. But that was a message to me. Yeah, I'm Jewish. I'm not for the cross. I work with Jesus. But I'm not a Christian. But the message God used the natural phenomena that was there for me. And he surrounded that cross with light so I would know, of course, that it was him. Every single doctor told me this was a miracle, it's impossible. Where it got even crazier was they always test you after because they need to see what type of brain damage is done. My son, thank God, blessed be he and blessed be his holy, glorious name. My son had 0 brain damage. There was not a trace. There was not even one trace of any damage on his brain, which is physically impossible, medically impossible, scientifically impossible. The infectious disease expert who had told me she didn't believe in God, she grew up in Tel Aviv, which is a very generally secular city in Israel, probably the most secular city in Israel. It's the biggest city as well. And she looked at me and said, I didn't believe in God. I said, I thought you said you don't. She said, well, until I saw this miracle, I didn't. Now I'm starting to question it. Got to be honest with you, what I witnessed with your son and your faith in God and your prayers. She said, there's something there, so I'm going to work on it because I'm missing something. And that in of itself was a miracle, just someone going back to God. And I have no doubt, I have every faith that she did. We stayed another couple of days just to monitor him. And thank God we went home. And he's fine. Almost 5 years later, he's thriving, he's doing great. He's, God willing, going to graduate from high school this year. He works out, he's a buff, he's a beast at the gym. He works hard at a restaurant, so he's working, he's doing well in school, he's taking care of himself, he's working out. He has plans for the future, and he's healthy, thank God. It was a true miracle in so many ways. A miracle that he survived, a miracle that he had no brain damage, a miracle that a doctor decided that maybe she's been wrong all along and she should have faith in God. I don't know what else I can add to that. That's miracle number 1. And was it because of my faith? Was it because of the faith of my family? Was it because my son Nathan, as my other 4 children, have an extreme faith in God? Was it the prayers that came from my family and I? Was it the prayers that came from about 4,000 people, including, guaranteed, some of you watching this know my son personally, some of you prayed? Was it your prayers and the prayers of the other 4,000 people that made a difference and helped? I'm going to say all the above. We can all make a difference with faith and prayer. And in this one instance, as well as others, which I will go over in the next videos, you will see that prayer and faith is extremely, extremely powerful. And God is doing miracles all the time. Very often we expect to see a supernatural miracle out of the sky, a mountain floating. We're waiting for the new Yerushalayim, the new Jerusalem to come down out of the sky when the Mashiach, when the Messiah comes. I get it. In those days, God will do supernatural miracles, okay? As he did in the time of Egypt. And even in the time of Egypt, what we call Mitzrayim, when he took out my people, the Hebrews, with Moshe Rabbeinu, with Moses, keep in mind, he still used nature. He split the sea. He did plagues with water, pestilence, the sun, etc., etc., the frogs, okay, the Nile turning red. He used nature. So God very often, if not almost always, is using the nature, the natural surroundings, the physical surroundings around us to do his miracles, and very often we take it for granted. Well, I can promise you one thing, this was certainly one I didn't take for granted, nor will I take any single day that I wake up for granted, because I know God is consistently doing miracles. We just have to look a little bit harder. Thank you for watching. Feel free to share this story. It's a personal story, so maybe you can't relate to it. Maybe you can because you're human, as I am. Maybe you know someone that might benefit from watching this. Maybe they're going through a tough time and they've lost hope. And this is a reminder to never give up, to pray and to have faith and trust God. And know that if it's meant to be, with enough faith and prayer, decrees from above can be overturned. God bless you. I appreciate all of you. Jared out. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, like I said, please share. And if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube, help out a Hebrew brother and do so. Peace.